Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Emmanuel, I'm an airline pilot, and in today's video let's debunk another flight sim myth. Today's myth is going to be the assumption that LOC mode always needs to be used before approach mode. This video applies to pretty much any aircraft, so even though I am recording it in the PMDG 737 in FS 2024, this applies to the Phoenix, to the INI builds Airbuses, and to basically any other airplane as well. Because this particular myth comes from a misconception about the safe areas of an ILS. So let's get started. The general myth that many flight simmers believe is that you always need to arm localizer mode, or in a 737 warlock mode, before you can arm the approach mode. That is incorrect. You can't use approach mode straight away, but there are a couple of limitations involved. And those limitations go back to the original certification of an ILS. So ICAO specifies a certain area around the arrival runway in which the ILS needs to be safe, aka in which the ILS needs to absolutely show correct indications. Now, this area is 25 miles for the localizer and 17 miles for the glide slope. Now, as you can probably guess already, the area that is safe around the localizer is a bit wider than the area around the glide slope. However, these minimum requirements only tell you the absolute minimum in which an ILS needs to work. This is somewhat related to a bug in Flight Simulator itself, where the nav data providers basically specified the range of an ILS is 25 miles, and now we don't receive an ILS any further out than that. In the real world, that's not the case. In the real world, you receive the ILS sometimes 100 miles out, even though you will notice that both the localizer as well as the glide slope will be a little bit wobbly up and down when you are that far out. And this missing precision on the localizer and the glide slope is exactly the problem. So, since the signals can sometimes bend at further distances, this safe area has been introduced. Now, in the real world, when you are receiving an ILS signal, you are checking for three particular things before you intercept the ILS. You first confirm the frequencies, which we got down here, and which we confirm to be active in both radios. Then we confirm the identifier of the ILS, so India Kilo Oscar Whiskey in our case, which we can see is confirmed up here and also up here, so from both receivers. And then we confirm the courses, 241, which we confirm up here and up here. And when all of those data matches, and when you are at a reasonable altitude, then you can absolutely use the respective modes of the ILS, even when you are a little bit further out than what is certified as the minimum safe distances. So, to put this into other words, when we are flying an approach like this one, sometimes we would come in from like a long straight line like this all the way to the final. And when that happens, ATC sometimes clears you for the ILS like 50 nautical miles out. The things you are going to check for is that your localizer and glide slope data is believable, and when it is, then you are simply going to be using that exact data. Now, what could possibly go wrong then? So, both localizers and glide slopes have what is called a side lobe. Basically, this is at 3 times the standard angle. So for a 3-degree glide slope, you will also have a glide slope indication at a 9-degree angle. This is what this Boeing 747 that crashed on a flight for, I believe on behalf of Turkish Airlines, fell victim to. They came in much too steep and then intercepted the wrong glide slope and came in so steep that they basically couldn't arrest the descent anymore, didn't notice the error early, and then crashed the airplane. So The way to verify that the data you receive is correct is quite simple. For the localizer, simply have a look at your nav display. If you're on the extended center line, then you can absolutely use the LOC mode, respectively the localizer mode, on many other autopilots. For the glide slope, do a very simple calculation. So take 3 times your distance or 3 times your altitude. If that equals your distance to the airport, then you know that the glide slope is roughly correct. So right now we are at about 2,300 feet. So take 2.3 times 3, you end up at roughly 6 point something miles. And if we look down here, we can see the airport is roughly at that position. So that way we know that we are on the correct localizer and glide slope. Now, when you're getting cleared for an ILS, then as long as you receive proper data, you can arm the approach mode straight away. As a small hint, in Flight Simulator you will always receive proper data. Side lobes do not exist in the Microsoft Flight Simulator universe, so you basically know that you are always going to get the correct data as long as you are actually receiving a localizer and a glide slope. And that's pretty much everything there is to this. Now, if you want to be 100% on the safe side, then you can do things as follows. You are going to LOC mode when you are outside of 17 miles, but already cleared for the ILS. And once you are within 17 miles, you can use glide slope mode as well. But that is really only for the minimum assured figures of that mentioned approach. So overall, as you can see, the approach mode is usable straight away. You do absolutely not need to arm any localizer following mode in the first place at all. And this is exactly what we do in the real world as well. The only reason to arm or to use the localizer mode at all is either if you are just cleared for the localizer but not for the glide slope yet, which sometimes happens in some places, or when you are actually not receiving any reliable glide slope data just yet, then you can also use localizer mode to intercept the final until you receive believable glide slope data, which is when you can simply arm the approach mode as well. Now, one further reason for the misconception here is that many aircraft inhibit glide slope capture before localizer capture. Now, on Boeing aircraft that is actually an option, so for example here on the Boeing 737 you can enable or disable that option, and on Airbus aircraft that is usually standard equipment. And that is pretty much everything there is to know about this flight sim myth. As you can see, it originates from a real-world problem, but nonetheless flight simmers overthought it, made it overly complicated, and then created this myth, which happens quite a lot in flight simulation, to be honest. So if you're interested in further videos about myths like this one, be sure to put it into the comments below. For now, thank you very much for watching. As always, I hope that you have enjoyed this little video here. Thank you very much for your attention. As always, like, comment and subscribe. And if you really love what I'm doing on this channel, I would appreciate a small donation through the Buy Me a Coffee link in the video description below. Thank you very much for watching, and then I'm looking forward to see you all again on the next one.